Hello everyone, and welcome to the second video of this tutorial series for G Suite Password Sync or GSPS. In the past video I have talked about an introduction to the GSPS tool and what is this tool, where to download this tool, and also I've covered some important notes and requirements before you can set up and use the password sync tool. In this video, I will start with the setup process and we'll begin with the authorization process, and we'll see the two types of the authorization that we can perform with this tool. However, before we start, I would like to apologize in advance about any noises or any sudden voices in the background, because there is a construction site actually right next to me, and I'm not sure if they will start the work now or they will give me some time to finish the recording of this video. So that being said, as I mentioned, we will go to the setup and authorization steps now. And before I start to show you the practical steps to the setup and authorization, I want to talk first about the types of authorization and what are the differences between each type of the authorization. So basically we have two ways to authorize the GSPS tool. First of them is the three-legged OpenAuth method, which is basically the same way when you are logging to your Gmail or your Google Drive account. You will be presented with a page to enter your username and password, and based on the permissions that you will grant to this tool, it will receive the authorization token and it will be authorized and it will get access to the G Suite admin console and your users and data. However, this is not a good method because you will need to reauthorize again later, and basically you will not get any warning or any countdown for the next time that you will have to reauthorize it. So simply when the time comes, the tool will stop working and you will not be able to know if it is 100% because of the authorization or something else, unless you start to do some troubleshooting steps and tasks. And as I mentioned in the beginning, it will require your username and password every time you want to authorize or reauthorize. And in case the computer that you're using, for example, if you are logged in remotely or there is a malware on your computer or something like that, you might risking the leak or the exposure of these credentials, these very important credentials. So it's not exactly the best way to use with GSPS to authorize it. However, the second method, which is the service account, this one requires more time, but it's actually much better than the other method, because basically you will get a service account file, which is either a JSON file. In our case, it will be a JSON file, JSON, or other cases it might be a P12 file, like a private key file. So this file, you will just take it and put it in the location where the tool is running, or you will point the tool to the location of this file and the tool will access the information, and it will encrypt all of the requests that it's sending to G Suite with this private file that you have, this private key file that you have. And when the request arrives to G Suite, it will be properly decrypted using the other set of credentials that is available when you have downloaded the service account file or when you have generated the service account. And G Suite will know that this request is authentic and it's coming from you, and it will then implement the requirements and the requests that are sent in that request or transaction. So this is also a better way to guarantee that the GSPS tool will work all of the time, because you do not have to reauthorize it again after you do the first time authorization. And you will not need your username and password every time as well, other than the only first time that you will log into the developers console. And you can do that from a different machine also, so you do not have to be on the same machine to log into the Google developers console and generate the service account. So once you log into the Google developers console, you'll have to enable the proper APIs, which I will show you right now. And then you'll create the service account, download the service account, move it to the server if you are on a different machine, and then point the tool to the service account, and basically that's it. So because the three-legged method is faster, I'm going to start with it first. I will show you how you can authorize with it, then we'll move on to the service account generation, and I will show you what you need to do in order to get the service account file. In order to start using the GSPS tool, of course you'll have to set up the tool on the server, and as I mentioned in the previous video, this tool has to be set up on every writable Active Directory server in your domain and in your organization, because it needs to make sure that it catches the password change request before it arrives to the Active Directory services and before it gets encrypted on the Windows Server operating system. So the setup process is very simple. Double click on G Suite password sync file and follow the on-screen instructions. It's not that complicated at all. Just accept the agreement and click install, and it's very quick to install the tool. Once it has been installed, then you will have to restart the server, because if you configure it without restarting the server, it will create a lot of issues for you. So I'm going ahead and I'm going to restart the server, and once the server is restarted, I'm gonna resume the video and we're going to complete the authorization process. Okay, so here is the server has been fully restarted now, and we can find the tool in the start menu. Then we'll expand the apps, and it should be in a group called G Suite Password Sync, and the only item we have is G Suite Password Sync. So we'll click this one and we'll be presented with the setup screen. It's also a sort of a wizard, so you'll complete one screen, then you'll click next, and then do this next step, and after that until you reach the finished screen. So this is the information, and if you want, you can click this link and you can be redirected to the setup and admin guide. It's really a good information in that link, so I really recommend that you take a look on it if you want to get more information about this tool and how does it work and how does it connect to the G Suite and your Active Directory. So we'll click next, and we are presented with three stuff that we need to do in this window. First of them, the G Suite domain that we want to connect this tool to it. Then the super administrator email account or the email address for our super admin, and then the authorization method. So starting with the domain name, I'm going to type my domain name, then the super administrator email, which is the very generic and obvious one. And for the authentication, I will choose the three-legged auth, as I mentioned, because it is much faster than the service account, and we'll click authorize now. So basically it's going to ask me to sign into this account, and once I sign into this account, it will present me with a permissions screen, which is basically it's about viewing and managing the provisioning of our users in our G Suite admin console. And in this scope of permission, the password management is included, so we have to grant this level of access to this tool, and we need to click allow, and that's it. It tells us in the background that the authorization has been granted successfully. Please switch to your application to complete the setup or whatever you're doing. As you can see here also, it tells us it is authorized, so we're clicking next. Now in this screen, we need to identify the scope for this tool to work on, and we have to authorize it to connect to our Active Directory as well. The easiest way or the easiest approach that you can have is you can just keep the first selection here, applications security context. It means with this current user account that we are logged into the Windows server, which is more than enough really, because if you have permissions to access the Windows server, you should already be a domain administrator at least. So you are fine with this. You can also use specific user credentials. For example, if you have specific user accounts that you are using for all of these services and all of the applications in your organization and domain, you can use it. Otherwise, the first selection, application security context, is very enough. Then for the scope, which is the base DN, here we select where this tool will look in the Active Directory for user accounts, so it can monitor their password change requests and intercept them. Here you will have to type the path for the organizational unit that contains your users if you want to specify that. Otherwise, you can be fine to keep it on the defaults. I think it's a good idea to show you the Active Directory structure that I have. So this is the Active Directory structure that I have, and as you see, The local domain name is called is-linux.pri, and inside it I have another organizational unit with my domain name that I'm going to configure in the GSPS tool. Under this domain name or under this organizational unit, there are two more OUs. One of them is for the computers, the other one is for the users. Of course, we do not care about the computers OU, we care about the users OU. And this is just a demo organizational structure that I have created for the purpose of this demo and other demos as well. Note that I do not have any user accounts in the users container. I put all my user accounts in the organizational unit that I have created under the users OU. So if you want, you can specify this specific path in the base D, and otherwise you can keep it to the default and the tool will monitor everything in the Active Directory. So basically, if a user only exists on the Active Directory and is not existing on G Suite, when he will change his password, an error will be generated in the logs for this tool, tells you that the user account is not found on G Suite. That's not that issue. However, you might get confused later on when you want to check the logs. You will find a lot of users that are not found on G Suite. So I think it's good if you specify the specific path that you want. Otherwise, just keep it to the default. For the purpose of this demonstration, as I said, I'll keep it to the default. However, if you want to find more about the base DNs and how you can work with base DNs, I recommend that you check my other video, which is a tutorial for Google Cloud Directory Sync. I've talked a lot about the base DN and how you can type the path to the OU, or how you can type the value of the base DN. I'll put a link to this in the video description, and if you want, you can go and check that also. So keeping this to the default, I'm going to click next, and that's it. The service has been configured and it's running now, as you can see here. This is all you have to do to configure the G Suite password sync. From this moment and on, any user who will press Ctrl-Alt-Delete, or any administrator who will reset the password for any user account from the Active Directory users and computers, he will find the password synced and replicate it to the G Suite admin console and to the user account on G Suite. So this is for the three-legged authentication process. Now I'm going back again to the authentication page, and I will show you the process to use the service account authentication method. Okay, here we are again on the authorization page for this tool, and we've done the three-legged before. Now we're going to select the service account, and basically we'll be presented with a button to load the credentials, and that is the file selection button. So to get this file, to get this service account, we'll have to go to the Google support site, and we'll have to click few links to get the information and the instructions that we need. I have already opened the page for you, so going from this page, which I'm sure that you have accessed in the previous video to download the tool about G Suite Password Sync. If you scroll down, you will find the download section, but if you go down a little bit also, you'll see this section which is called Next, and you'll have to click the Setup G Suite Password Sync link. It will take you to another page, Setup G Suite Password Sync. You can just take the page and put it in the search in the Google support site, and you'll be taken directly to this page. However, in this page, you will need to go to a specific section in the Prepare to Install GSPS section, which is called Create a GSPS Service Account. Once you open this, or once you expand this, you'll have to click again the Authorize GSPS for your domain link. You will be taken to another page where you have to do two steps. The first step is you'll need to create a service account. The second step, you will need to authorize the client ID for that service account in your G Suite admin console. So of course you'll have to do the first step now, and in the first step we'll have to click another link, which is create a service account. This will give us the information that we need in order to create the service account. So it's a very simple process, even though you see a lot of text in here. However, it's very simple and straightforward. We'll have to go to the Google Developers Console, just make sure that you are signed in with the super administrator account that belongs to the domain that you're authorizing the GSPS tool for it. In the Google Developers Console, you'll have to create a new project. So we'll select the menu where we are asked to select a project, then we'll click the add button and we'll be taken to the new project screen, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna name it demo GSPS, then click create, and then we'll have to go inside the project once it has been created. And as you see, the project has been created now, so we'll select the project and we'll go inside the project now. And we need to create a service account and we need to enable APIs also. So to know the APIs and the service account, basically to know the APIs only, you have to go back to the service account help site or the G Suite help site, and we'll check the step 2, enable the APIs, and we need to find the corresponding API for the G Suite password sync, which is the admin SDK. So going back to the developers console, we'll go to the library, and from the library we'll type the admin SDK. As you see here, this is the admin SDK API, so we'll have to enable it for this tool. Once this is enabled, then we'll move to the third step, which is the service account creation. So these steps are very easy and quick also. We'll go to the menu on top left, and then we'll go to I am an admin, and then service accounts. Then we'll create a new service account. We can name the service account anything, however I'm going to name it something very generic, whatever you want here, and you do not need to select any role or anything. You need to select furnish a new private key, you keep it to JSON, and you need to make sure you selected the enable domain-wide delegation. You'll be asked to configure a consent screen, so you'll have to type a product name, and this is like a title or a name for the project that you are configuring or authorizing with G Suite Admin Console. So once you do this, we'll click create. And that's it. Now, as you can see, we've got one file downloaded here. This is the service account file that we need to use with the GSPS tool. However, we cannot use it now. We need to do some stuff before we are able to use it first. So we'll click close in here, and then we need to find the client ID for the service account. And to do this, we'll click view client ID. This is the client ID for the service account. We need to copy it. Then we'll have to go to the admin console for our G Suite. And once you are in the dashboard for the admin console, you can immediately type in the search manage API client access, and you will be presented with the result. When you click it, you will be redirected to the security page, and one option is highlighted for you. So we need to go to this page, and there are two things that we need to fill here. First of them is the client name, which is basically the client ID that we've put in the notepad here. I'm going to click paste, and one or more API scopes. This value we can get from not from this page, not from the create a service account page. This was the step 1 that we worked from this link, Authorize GSPS for your domain. We've just completed the step 1. Step number 2, which is right now what we are going to do, authorize your client ID in the admin console. So basically what we've done is we opened the admin console, then we clicked we've actually gone straight to the manage API client access. We've pasted our client ID in the client name field, and in the one or more API scopes, we will need this value that is provided for us. This is the scope that we need to work with. So copy, going back to the admin console and paste, and we'll click authorize. You see now we've got the entry with the client ID, and this is the scope that we have authorized the client ID. In other words, the scope that we have authorized this project to work with our G Suite admin console in. So basically this is it. Now the client or the service account file is ready and we can use it with the tool. It has been authorized and it has got the proper APIs enabled on it. So we'll go back to the tool, click load credentials, find the file which is in the downloads, and as you see, this is the project ID, which is something automatic that we get from the admin console or from the Google Developers Console. We can type it manually, but we can get it automatically. This is the client ID, which is the same client ID that we have entered in the admin console and authorized it for the scope, which is to manage the user provisioning and passwords. This is all to it. Now when we click next, we are presented again with the screen to enter the credentials to connect to the Active Directory and to select the base DN path for our users. I kept the base DN to the default value previously, but I can show you what you need to do if you want to specify an OU in your Active Directory. So basically you have to type, like, you'll have to go from the inside to the outside. So I want to select this user's OU. So basically it will be like OU equals users, then OU equals the parent organizational unit, and then that's it really. So any object, any user object inside this OU who gets his password changed, the change will be reflected to the G Suite admin console. So we'll click next, and that's it. The service is now running and the configuration have been saved. Now I mentioned before that this tool will work as a service. So if you want to take a look on this tool, on this GSPS service, then you'll have to open the services, which is found in the tools and services. So this is the services list, and the GSPS is here, G Suite Password Sync. This service have automatic startup type and currently it's running, so it will work in the background and you do not need to do anything for this. It's only one-time configuration that we have done and we do not need to worry about it anymore. To give you a demonstration, I want to change the password for one of the user accounts in these OUs, and I want to log in with the password and show you what is going to happen. So let's find a user, for example, in the IT, and let's change the password for testing user 02. First, let me take the login name. Okay. So reset the password and then reset. So I'm going to type a password that is something that meets the criteria for the Google password policy, and basically the password that I typed is so I'm going to use this password for demonstration, and I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste again, and we'll click OK. Now going to the, let's open a private window. Let's open accounts.google.com and then we'll be asked to sign in. The username for this account was, now to show you the change that have happened, I'm going to select copy and I'm going to set paste and click next. You see, now this is the first login for this user account and the user account will be required to change the password. So I'm gonna type anything now, and again if you want to change it for something else, for example let's make it 22, so let's reset it again and let's sign out. Let's sign in again, and this is the new password which I have just reset for the user, and there we go. So this is how the setup and configuration for the G Suite Password Sync will work. It's very simple and straightforward process. The very and most important note and thing that you need to make sure you have is make sure that you have a local password policy that is compliant with the Google password policy. Check the previous video to know about the password policy for Google. It is very important that you achieve this point, otherwise the password sync will not work. I pointed this out multiple times because this is very important, and in my work I got a lot of complaints from customers complaining that password is not working, the password sync. Turned out that the user was entering a password does not comply with Google password policy. So the next video will be about how you can find the logs, how you can do some troubleshooting for this tool. Until the next video, if you have any comment or if you have any question or any issue, please put them in the comment. I will be happy to respond to every one of you. And if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel to get more content as well. Without your help, I really need it, and without your help, I would not be able to achieve anything. Also, I really would love to bring to your attention that I have now a new G Suite administration course that is launched and live on Udemy. And if you check it now, you will be able to get it for $10.99 instead of its original price, $59.99. This course will give you all of the information that you want about how you can manage the G Suite applications. It is for G Suite administration, so it focuses on the admin console. It will cover all of the details. It will cover all of the controls and options that you have on the admin console. So if you do not know about certain aspects of the admin console, or if you really want to learn about the admin console, this is the only course that you will need to know about, and the only course that you will need to watch. Please check it, and I'm sure that you will find it useful. It took me some time to work on this course, and I'm going to have some updates on it in the coming days to catch up with some changes that Google have made to the admin console and to the G Suite services and applications. So as I mentioned, if you check it now, you will be able to get it for $10.99 instead of $59.99. There is the link for it in the video description, and you should be able to see it on screen as well. Check it now. Please let me know your feedback on it if you purchase it, and I really would love to see your reviews on it as well. So until the next video, again, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.